So now we know what the states of matter are. Let's do a little art project so that we can get a real idea of visually how these states of matter look. What does a solid look like? What does a liquid look like? And what does a gas look like? Remember, solid particles are tight together. Remember, imagine being in a room and you're side to side with people and you're squished. That's how the particles are in a solid. When you're in a liquid, the particles are a little looser, so they kind of flow around. They have a little bit more space in between them. It's like when we're sitting and we have a little bit of elbow room. We just have a little bit of space in between each person and we can move around freely. When it's a gas, remember those particles can move around wherever they want to. They're really far spread out. Almost like if you put your hands out, you would be able to have that much space in between. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little art project so that we can really see what it is we're talking about, because we can talk about how particles are really close or really far, but I want to know that you guys actually get what I'm talking about. So to do that, we're going to do an art project. So for this project, you're going to need this ditto, this states of matter ditto. And each one, solid, liquid, and gas. We are going to use a material to make each one of these states of matter. Now, for my project, I am going to use some Cheerios. But if you don't have Cheerios, don't worry. You can really use anything. You can use noodles, you can use pom-poms, you can even draw circles. It's really whatever you have. But I'm going to use some glue and I'm going to use some Cheerios. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, is I want you guys to practice writing your name at the top of the paper. When you are done writing your name, we are going to move through each state of matter, all right? So, first one is solid. And remember, how are the particles in a solid object? Are they far apart or are they tight together? Very good, they're tight together. So when we glue our item on, whatever you're using, Cheerios, pom-poms, sequins, noodles, rice, pieces of rice, anything, even if you're just drawing circles, you're gonna make sure that those, whatever the item is on top of each other. They're really close. So I'm going to use Cheerios. So let me make sure my box is open. It's a brand new box too. And I'm just going to pour a few onto my plate. That way they're ready. And I'm not constantly sticking my hands in a box of food because that's not all that healthy. All right. And what we're going to do is we are going to start with our solid. So you're going to take some glue and you're going to make some dots. And remember, these dots are going to be really close together because your Cheerios are going to be right on top of each other. So make as many as you can. And remember, we're not just pouring glue all over. We're just making a whole bunch of dots. And then all we're going to do is put our Cheerios on. And remember, they're right up next to each other. Imagine they're in a room and they are shoulder to shoulder. No matter where they go, these Cheerios are bumping into each other. That is what a solid object would have. The particles would be right on top of each other. So this one is probably going to take a bunch of Cheerios or whatever object or item you are using. And again, if you're just drawing circles or making dots, just make sure they're on top of each other. All right, almost done. And if there's a little bit of space, don't worry. Just try and get them as close as possible because at the end you'll see why each one of them needs to look different. All right, a couple more. That looks good. All right, so when you're done, as many Cheerios as you can fit, they're going to be as close to each other, right on top of each other. Now we move on to liquids. Now are liquids really far apart, or are they close together, or are they in the middle? That's right, they're in the middle. There's just enough space. Imagine as if they had a little bit of elbow room. So when we do a liquid, we're going to make the particles a little spread out. Not a lot spread out, just a little. Because liquids, the particles move around freely, which means they can kind of take whatever shape of the container that it's in. Like when we pour water into a bucket and then we pour water into a glass, it's the same water. It's just takes up different space in each container. And we're going to do an activity with that in a little bit so you guys understand again what I'm talking about. So those dots of glue are a little spaced out. We're giving each Cheerio a little bit of elbow room. Don't worry, getting glue on your hands. This is good practice. Nice. Okay, 2 more. All right. So now you can see the difference. The solid, the Cheerios are all on top of each other. The liquid, there's a little bit of room in between each Cheerio. Now what about the gas? Really close together? Kind of close together? Or really far apart? That's right, they are really far apart. Gas, the particles, they have a lot of space to move around. That's why gas kind of moves around freely. The oxygen, carbon dioxide, helium, all those kind of things that are gases that are naturally around us. They have free moving particles. And those particles have a lot of space. So look at that. Solid, the particles are all on top of each other. They take one shape because there's nowhere for them to move. Liquids, the particles have a little bit of elbow room, a little bit of space, which means that they can move around a little more freely, and they can take whatever space is in the container that it's being poured into. And a gas, the particles are really far apart and they free move all around us. That's why gas, oxygen, carbon dioxide, everything is all around us, and it can take up as much space as it needs to or wants to. So this shows us the real difference between the states of matter. And it's kind of cool. I like it. So we will be back in a little while for another experiment. We're going to be doing an experiment so I can show you guys that if I take the same amount of liquid and I pour it in one container, and then I pour it in another container, and then another container, it's going to look different, but it's the same amount of water. So I'm going to show you how liquids can move around a little more freely. All right, so we'll see you in a little bit. I hope you have fun doing your art project, and I'll see you for the next activity.